So the topic of today's class is about Moshe's walk. That's the title of the class. And of course, the Torah portion talks about the rebellion that Korach fomented against Moshe Rabbeinu. And of course, how he was eventually swallowed up by the earth. However, the way it happened it didn't happen so fast. There were several attempts by Moshe to try to make peace with Korach. So the parsha starts out with Korach and his complaints against Moshe. And Moshe basically tells them, Hashem has chosen who he's chosen. And there's going to be a showdown tomorrow to see who is the actual chosen one. But then he speaks gently to them and he says, Hashem chose you already the Leviim, and you should be happy with what you have. And then he goes out of his way specifically to call Dasan and Aviram, who were two of the biggest troublemakers. And he hopes that they're going to come and he'll be able to make peace with them. And they refuse to come. They send back an angry message. You took us out of a land of milk and honey to die in the desert, and so on. So Moshe gets angry, and the showdown is set for the next day. In the morning, Hashem speaks to Moshe and Aaron saying, separate yourself from this community. I'm going to kill them all. And Moshe and Aaron fall on their faces, and they say, if one man sins, why should you be angry at everybody? So they kind of avert the decree that everybody should die. And here come the verses that we're going to focus on today. Vaydaber Hashem Moshe lemor. Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, Daber lo idol lemor, speak to the congregation saying, Hey alu misaviv, get up from about, leMishkan Korach Dasan va'Aviram, to the dwelling place of Korach, Dasan, and Aviram. Because of course they're about to be swallowed up by the earth. So you don't want to be anywhere close to them. Vayakam Moshe vayilech el Dasan va'Aviram. Moshe got up and he went to Dasan and Aviram. Vayelchu achar of Ziknei Yisrael, and the elders of Israel went behind him. Vayidaber lo idol lemor, and he spoke to the congregation saying, Suruna, turn away now. Me'al oholeha noshim harishama ela, from the tents of these wicked people. Va'al tigu b'chol asher lahem. I just muted you all, but you can unmute yourselves as you need. Don't touch anything of theirs. Pen tisafu b'chol chatasam, lest you be gathered in together with all of their sin. I didn't quote the rest of the verse, but of course it goes on and says that people moved away. Dasan and Aviram came out blaspheming in front of their tent with their wives and children. And Moshe said, with this you will know that Hashem has sent me to do all of these things. It's not from my own heart. If they die the way other people die, and people come and visit them before they die, like a sickbed, then Hashem didn't send me. But if Hashem creates a new creation, and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them up and everything of theirs, and they go alive into the depths, then you will know that these people have blasphemed Hashem. And it was when he finished speaking all these words, the earth split underneath them. The earth opened its mouth, and it swallowed them up with all of their houses, and all of the men that were of Korach, and all of the possessions. They went down alive into the grave. The earth covered them over, and they were lost from the community. All of Israel that was around them ran away from the noise. They were afraid they might also be swallowed up. At the same time, a fire came out from Hashem and consumed the 250 men who had sacrificed the Ketores. Not many dramatic stories in the Chumash like that. I mean, the splitting of the sea is pretty dramatic, yes. Maybe the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, a last-minute reprieve before Abraham slaughters Isaac. Gotta think. Not many more, not so many comparable to this showdown. But we're going to focus on one specific verse and on the Rashi commentary on that verse. Hashem tells Moshe and Aaron, like we just said, to warn the people to go away from the tents because of the impending sinkhole that's about to happen. And the pasuk says, "Vayakam Moshe v'Aaron." Moshe and Aaron got up. Vayelchu acharav ziknei Yisrael, and the sages of Israel went after him. And then they went to the tent of Dasan and Aviram, and they told the people to go away, and they did everything we read. So Rashi says, if you have the handout, I'll read the Rashi. Rashi says, on the words, Vayakam Moshe, Moshe got up. Rashi says, Kasaver, he thought, Sheyisu leipanim, that they would show him favor. They would show him respect. V'lo also, but they did not show him any respect. So according to Rashi, this was a last-ditch effort that Moshe made to try to get them to change their minds and back down from this mutiny. Now, yes, Susan, you have a question? I can't hear you. You're muted. You can unmute yourself. You just got to press the right button, the magic button. I can't unmute you. Sorry. I would if I could. I can ask you to unmute yourself. That's the most I can do. Okay, so you can type it in. You can type in your question. So, a few questions here. Hashem told Moshe to go tell the people that they must go away from the tent. Like it was already done. There was no more negotiations. This was the end of it, the end of the line. And according to, and if you read the verses, there's nothing to indicate that Moshe did anything special to try to do one last ditch reconciliation efforts. On the contrary, he was told to warn people to go away from the tent, and that's exactly what he did. He got up with Aaron, with the sages, and he went to their tent. Why did he go to their tent? Not because he wanted to convince them about anything. He went to their tent because that's where the people were hanging out, and he needed to warn all the people that were not actually on his side, hey guys, if you don't move away, you're going to be in big trouble. That's the simple reason he went there. And by the way, you might ask, why did he not also go to Korach's tent? Because after all, Korach was also one of the big troublemakers. And his tent was also swallowed up together with his family. And by the way, we know his children regretted their involvement at that time, and they did tshuva, and they were able to survive this sinkhole swallowing event, and they were able eventually to get out of it and to father prophets. Their descendants were Levites who sang in the Beis Hamikdash. So that all being said, why did he not go to Korach's tent? This is a side point, not really on the topic of the class, but just as a side point. Why does it only say he went to the tent of Dasan and Aviram? What about Korach's tent? So there's two possible reasons why it doesn't mention Korach's tent. Some say that even though Korach's main tent was in the family of Kahas, which lived around the Mishkan, but he had a storage tent where he kept his wealth, because we know Korach was a very wealthy man. And his storage tent for his wealth was within the tribe of Reuven, next to where Dasan and Aviram lived, because he was their buddy. And they probably arranged the real estate for him. I mean, it wasn't permanent real estate because they were nomads living here and there, but they had arranged a tent next to them where he could stash his wealth. So when it says he went to the tents of Dasan and Aviram, it's really the tent of Korach also, which was nearby, although Korach didn't live there, but his stuff was there, so maybe he was hanging out there as well. Another interpretation is, the Rebbe suggests, that of course he went to the tent of Korach, which was closer to him because it was immediately after the Mishkan. But he also went to the tent of Dasan and Aviram, which was further away because it was in the area of the tribe of Reuven. Excuse me. But either way, the question is, why does Rashi say that he went to Dasan and Aviram because he thought they would show him favor, as if this was a reconciliation effort, when the pasuk doesn't indicate anything like that? Hashem told him to give a warning. This is no time for reconciliation. There was time before, but this is already day 61. Iran had 60 days to reconcile. Day 61, there was no more negotiation. Baruch Hashem. That's when they were taken down. And that's exactly what was happening here. They had back and forth the previous day. They were warned. And now it's time for the fight. Well, it wasn't really a fight because the two sides were not exactly equal when you have Hashem on your side. But Hashem had not indicated there was any room for reconciliation. And in fact, Moshe does not say any reconciling words. He gets up, he goes there, and he tells everybody, go away. They do, and that's it. And the earthquake and whatever else happens, and they get swallowed up. So where does Rashi get this idea that he went there thinking they would show him favor, they would show him respect? Where does that idea come from in the pasuk, in the verse? That's question number one. Question number two, because there always has to be at least 4 or 5 questions when you have a class on Rashi. That's the Rebbe style. Many questions always. Question number two, why does Rashi say Moshe thought they would show him respect? Is that really what he needs? Respect? He needs them to do tshuva. He needs them to back off from this argument. I mean, if you respect the leader, then hopefully you'll do tshuva and you won't fight with him. Yeah, that's true. But respect is not the objective here. The objective is tshuva. The objective is backing down from this terrible argument that's ripping apart the Jewish people and going to end up costing them their lives. So it should have said, Kasavar Shayasu Tshuva. He thought they would do Tshuva. So you'll say, well, why would they do Tshuva? Maybe it's out of respect. Yeah, but a better word would have been Sheyizbaishu, that they would be embarrassed. He thought maybe they would be embarrassed by seeing him putting in the effort to make them change their mind. Maybe they'd be embarrassed and they would do tshuva or something like that. But what's this respect? Why is it about respect? What does respect have anything to do with this? And finally, a third question. And the question is going to be a key to the answer. That's the way it is usually. The more difficult the question is, the closer you are to the answer, because you see there's something up. You have a little thread that's unraveling in the knot, which you can pick at until you unravel it. So here is the Rashi, looking at it again. Vayokom Moshe. Moshe got up. Rashi says, Kasover she'yisrael upon him, he thought they would show him respect. Why does Rashi focus on the words Vayokom Moshe? Moshe got up. If the point is we're trying to show that he got them to do tshuva, or he tried to get them to do tshuva, the words that Rashi would be explaining should be Vayelech el Dasan va'aviram. He went to Dasan and Aviram. That's really what would have showed that he was trying to make peace with them. The fact that he went to them, not the fact that he got up. So the entire Rashi should have been starting with the words Vayelech el Dasan and Aviram. He went to Dasan and Aviram, and Rashi should say Kasavar she was also he thought that they would show him respect, and they didn't. The fact that he went there, made a special trip, wanted to speak to them, they weren't interested. Okay, but he thought they would show him respect. But that's about him going there, not so much about him getting up. And instead, Rashi focuses on him getting up. And not only that, because as you know, the Rebbe is very, very specific. He looks into every word of Rashi, every word of the Divrei HaMaschil, which is the quote from the verse that Rashi is explaining. And sometimes when Rashi is explaining a verse, he will say the words of the verse and he will say v'goimer, etc. Sometimes he will not say etc. Now, if you are not a student of the Rebbe's Rashi Sichas, you might think, no big deal. Sometimes there is etc. Sometimes there is no etc. But if you studied the Rashi according to the Rebbe before, you know there is nothing that's not a big deal. When Rashi says etc., it means that there's something else in the verse that needs explanation. He's not spelling it out, but he wants you to check it out because there's more. When Rashi skips the word etc., that means that the only words he's explaining are the words that he's quoting. That's it. Everything else in the verse is 100% clear. And here, in fact, Rashi doesn't seem to be explaining those words at all, that Moshe got up. The words that he's explaining really is the fact that he went to Dasan and Aviram. So that's question number 3. And finally, question number 4. Hopefully you have room in your heads for another question. Question number 4 is, and this is on the verse, not on Rashi. Why does it say Vayelech acharav ziknei Yisrael? The sages of Israel went after him. What does that have to do with anything? They went, they didn't go. He had a security detail. He didn't have one. His parents came, his children came, his nephews came, the sages came. Yeah, so they came, but what's the difference? Why is it important that the sages of Israel came along? Were they told to? It doesn't say in the verse that they were told to come, I mean, they came because this was a big showdown. This was a historical event. This is going to go down in history as one of the big things. Okay, that's fine. We understand why they came, but why does the verse have to tell us that they came? Obviously, it's teaching us something. So all of this is an introduction to understand the answer and the understanding of the Rashi according to the Rebbe. Yes, David.
Two things. Number one, in the handout, there's a mistake. You put chapter 25, and it's actually chapter 26. Because
Okay, duly noted.
I was trying to find it in chapter 25 in my Chumash here, and I couldn't find it.
Okay.
So the second thing is in the four questions. In the fourth question, I thought I had an answer. So what's
Okay.
the point of telling that this is just my words? I didn't hear this from somebody. What's the point of telling that the sages went up with him? It could be that they were trying to make an atonement because when Moshe went to Pharaoh, and they all went with him. And as Rashi explains, that they dropped off one by one. By the time he came in front of Pharaoh, they weren't with him anymore. So maybe they were trying to make a kapar, maybe trying to make an atonement. And this time they went with him all the way to the end. They didn't drop off early.
I'll accept your hypothesis, but I will add that it wasn't the same elders. Those elders died in the fire in Parshas Baha'aloischa 2 weeks ago. It says that the fire consumed the edge of the camp. Rashi says the edge means like the ketzinim, the leaders, and that those leaders had already deserved to die already from Mount Sinai because they gazed at the Shekhinah, wasn't respectful, but Hashem didn't want to kind of ruin the simcha on that day. But they did die, and they were replaced by another group of leaders, also in Parshas Baha'aloischa. When he gets the 70 leaders, you know what I'm saying? He chooses them. There's a whole lottery. So they were a different group than the original. But yeah, maybe they were still trying to atone for that problem of that group of sages. I accept the idea. Shkoyach. Okay, my friends. Here's the explanation.
Want
When
to give us the four questions again, just
the
concisely?
four questions, absolutely. Not to be confused with the four questions of the Haggadah, but the four questions are, first of all, why did Moshe, where does Rashi get the idea that Moshe did something special to try to make peace with Dasan and Aviram at this point, when the verse gives no indication of this? He was told to tell the people to go away from the tent. He got up, he went to them, and he told everybody to go away from the tent. That's it. It doesn't say anything that he negotiated with them and he said, please do tshuva, think again, you never know. You can come back, spare yourselves, spare your wives. What are you, crazy? I mean, it doesn't say anything. It just says he got up, he went, and he warned, which is exactly what he was supposed to do. So where does Rashi get this idea that he was trying to reconcile? That's question number one. And by the way, I didn't really spell it out into a separate question, but included in question number one is, how was he allowed to try to reconcile when Hashem already told him it's over? It's over. Just tell everybody to leave. Hashem didn't give any room for reconciliation at this point. Hashem said, tell them it's over.
Maybe
Sorry?
something from the Gemara.
So here's the thing. Rashi, I mean, it is a medrash. There is a medrash that says that Moshe Rabbeinu tried a last-ditch effort to do reconciliation. And it's kind of similar to something else that we do find in the Rashi, which is that when Moshe was on the mountain of Sinai, Hashem sent him back down to tell the people not to approach the mountain. So when he told Hashem, well, I already warned them in the past, Hashem said, no, you have to give them another warning because you have to always warn somebody at the time. Previous warnings are not good enough. They have to be told at the time. So based on that, you could say that Moshe wanted to give them one last chance because even though he had warned them yesterday that if they wanted to go ahead with this, it would be a showdown and only one would survive. But nevertheless, when it comes to the actual moment of no return, give somebody another moment to think about it. So that is what the Medrash seems to say. However, Rashi does not have to interpret the verse based on every Medrash. Rashi is giving us the pshat, the simple understanding of the verse. When I say simple, I don't mean simple as in unsophisticated. When I say simple, I mean straightforward. I mean uncomplicated, not unsophisticated, but uncomplicated. Like the straightforward understanding of the text is what Rashi is trying to give over. Now, he will use the teachings of our sages, whether it's the Medrash, whether it's the Talmud. He will use those teachings, but he will only do so if they fit in to the straightforward understanding of the text. He doesn't quote every commentary given by the Medrash or the Talmud, because that's not what Rashi is functioning as. He's not here to just tell us what the Talmud says about the verses. He is here to give us the straightforward interpretation, which sometimes is given in the Medrash or the Talmud, but not necessarily. So that's what it is. So even if the Medrash says that, but if the verse doesn't indicate that, so why does Rashi have to quote that Medrash? He could just leave it out. So that was question number 1. Question number 2 was, why does Rashi talk about respect? If he wants them to do tshuva, and he wants them to stop arguing, Rashi just said he thought they would do tshuva. He thought they would be embarrassed of their sins and do tshuva. But why do you think they would show him respect? What does respect have to do with anything? Okay, maybe the respect will lead to tshuva. That's true. But that's not the ultimate goal. So why does he say that? Question number 3 is, why does Rashi put his commentary on Vayakam Moshe, Moshe getting up, when it would seem that the most relevant part of the verse that he's explaining is Vayelech el Dasan va'avim, he went to their tents. Getting up, per se, I mean, big deal. I mean, I got up this morning. With Hashem's help, I'll get up tomorrow morning until 120. But what do I do after I get up is the question. So Moshe got up. That's wonderful. What did he do? He went to their tents. Oh, why did he go to their tents? Oh, here Rashi could say he didn't have to go to their tents. He could have gone somewhere else. I don't know where else. But he could have gone somewhere else, and he went to their tents specifically because he wanted them to show him respect and do tshuva or whatever. But that's not what Rashi does. Rashi doesn't explain it, not even with an etc. Doesn't give any indication that he's explaining the words he went to the tent of Dasan and Aviram, just the words that he got up. That was question number 3. And question number 4 is, why does the verse tell us that the sages took part in this spectacle? Why is their presence important here? The fact that they went is because they went. When a great historical event happens, you want to be there. That's understood. But why does the Torah have to tell us that they were there? Okay, so here's the explanation. In fact, Moshe Rabbeinu was told there's no going back. This is it. They are done. It's time for everybody to get out of the way. They're about to be swallowed up. Moshe who is the servant of Hashem, is also a lover of the Jewish people. And Moshe really, really wants to give them one more chance. Even though these are his worst antagonists, you have to realize these men, Dasan and Aviram, were not just troublemakers at this occasion. These were his foremost antagonists over all of the time in the desert and even before that in Egypt. These are the ones who spoke out against him when he tried to get Paro to let the Jews go. He said that they're making trouble and they're getting lashes because of him. You should just keep quiet and stop making trouble. They are the ones who said that we should go back to Egypt by the crossing of the sea. They are the ones who were the spies who told Paro that the Jews are not coming back. They are the ones who put out the man on Shabbos to make it seem like the man fell on Shabbos. Like, these are such bad guys. Finally, we're going to do away with them. But Moshe, no. Moshe is the lover of the Jewish people. He loves every Jewish person. And he wants to be able to give them one last chance to do tshuva. The problem is that Moshe is also an Eved Hashem. He's also a servant of Hashem. And he has to listen to Hashem absolutely, unequivocally, without hesitation and without delay. Hashem told him to go to the people who were hanging out at the tent of Dasan and Aviram and tell them to get away. That's what he had to do. He wasn't really allowed to take a detour and start negotiating and convincing and giving tshuva talks and whatnot, because he had already been given his mission. His mission was to tell the people, get out of the way, catastrophe is about to strike. So Moshe Rabbeinu was stuck between a rock and a hard place. He had Hashem's command on the one hand, which he had to fulfill immediately, because when Hashem says to do something, you're not supposed to delay, you're supposed to do it right away. On the other hand, he had the Jewish people that he loved. Despite the fact that they were such troublemakers, he still cared about each and every one of them. And he wanted to do something to save them. So what could he do? He decided that he was going to walk. What does it mean he was going to walk? Of course he was going to walk. How else is he going to go there to tell the people to get out of the way? The answer is that the pasuk says, "Vayakam Moshe." Moshe got up. Why does it have to say Moshe got up? It could have just said, "Vayelech Moshe." Moshe went. If he went, he got up. How do you go if you didn't get up? Why is it important to say that he got up? The answer is that the word vayakam is used in other contexts to mean an elevation, like a spiritual elevation. When it talks about the field of Ephron being transferred from the domain of Ephron, who was a wicked guy, to the domain of Avram, who had purchased it, it says, Vayakam ste Ephron. The field of Ephron got up. And Rashi says, Tekuma hoisaloi. It had an elevation. Sheyotzasa miyad hedyoit. I'm forgetting the exact words, but basically it left the possession of a simple person and it went into the possession of a melech, of like a king. Avram Avinu was like a king. So the word vayakam indicates an elevation in status. When it says that Moshe Rabbeinu got up, what it means is that he didn't just walk there in a regular manner. Rather, he got up, he gathered himself, and he elevated himself so that his walk to warn the people to leave should be an inspiring walk. He went in a manner that would inspire people who cared to be inspired a little bit when they would see the tzaddik, which he was, walking. It would bring a change to their hearts just by seeing him. We know that the vision of a tzaddik, seeing a tzaddik, can inspire a person forever. Even just one sight of a tzaddik. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, the author of the Mishnah, said that the reason he was wiser than his colleagues is because he saw Rab Meir from the back. He would sit in the shir. It was like an amphitheater shir, and Rab Meir was facing the other direction. He only saw Rab Meir's back, but he saw Rab Meir's back. And that's why he's wiser than his colleagues. If he had seen Rab Meir's face, wow, it would have been a whole nother level. And the same is true throughout the generations. The vision of a tzaddik, seeing a tzaddik, can have a very big impact on a person's tshuva, on a person's spiritual path. And it can really lead a person towards tshuva. A person who has seen a true tzaddik will know what I'm saying. Just seeing the way he davens, seeing the way he walks, like we're learning about here, seeing the way he talks, listening to the way he talks, seeing the way he gets an aliyah, the way he blows the shofar, the way he dances at Simchas Torah. These are all inspiring moments that can remain etched in somebody's memory forever and can really bring inspiration forever. So this is what Moshe Rabbeinu was trying to bring about. Yes, David.
I'm not sure if I'm telling all the details. You can help me, or maybe Mordechai is familiar. There's a story about the Baal Shem Tov, where there was one city that was about to put him into excommunication and also to ban all the books that anything that was available of the teachings of Hasidus, of the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov. And they had this secret meeting in the shul of all these misnagdim of the Hasidim, the opponents of the Hasidim. And suddenly the Baal Shem Tov showed up. And everybody was supposed to be a secret meeting. Nobody was supposed to tell anybody. He showed up. And he told them that what you're about to do is you're about to do what the opponents of Moshe Rabbeinu did with like Korach's group. And he mentioned to them that just like Korach's group, there's 250 men. You're here in the shul, 250 men. And they did a real fast count. They looked around and saw it was so, that it was 250 men. And the Baal Shem Tov told them, I think you should stop what you're doing and don't do this. And then left. And they did. They stopped.
Did they know he was the Baal Shem Tov?
I think so.
Interesting. Very interesting.
I'm almost sure of it. Otherwise, how would he know to come to this secret meeting that he wasn't invited? Only the Baal Shem Tov.
He of course was, but I'm saying if they knew. So it also reminds me of the Hayom Yom. There's a daily lesson for every day that the Rebbe wrote. And one of them, it describes the Shpoler Zayda, who was a very emotional person. And he was an inspired emotionally person, meaning to say he had a very deep love for Hashem, very like alive. love for Hashem, so to speak. And he said that he got that because when he was young, the Baal Shem Tov put his hands on his heart. And since then, he feels the warmth, so to speak, of that, and that affected him. And that's what they say. That's how the Hayom Yom finishes the lesson of that day, finishes that the Pa'ula of a tzaddik, one action of a tzaddik, should affect a person in a way that should never be forgotten. Mordechai, you had something to say? So the story goes that this is why it says that Moshe went and the sages of Israel went after him, because this was part of his intention. He wanted to go to Dasan and Aviram. He wasn't going to say even one word to them because he had a mission from Hashem. And the mission was to tell people to leave the tent. So he couldn't deviate from that mission. But at the same time, he was hoping that when they would see him coming, and he was with his regalia of sages, and he was walking in an awe-inspiring manner, he was hoping that this would bring them to some sense of respect for him, and that in view of that respect, they would reconsider and perhaps do tshuva, and perhaps Hashem would avert the decree. The decree was already made. It was signed and sealed. But Hashem has the option to unsign it and unseal it because he is Hashem and nobody tells him what to do. And that's what he was hoping for. But that's why it doesn't say that Moshe spoke to them, because he didn't say a word to them. All he did was walk. And that's why Rashi is focusing on the words Vayaka Moshe. Moshe got up. Because those are the only words that are difficult. The fact that Moshe Rabbeinu went there, of course he went there, because he had to speak to them. The fact that it says he went up is what clues us into the fact that there was something else going on. And that is that the walk itself was supposed to be awe-inspiring. And that's why it doesn't say about doing tshuva or anything like that, because there was no words exchanged. This was just pure vision, just the image of Moshe Rabbeinu was supposed to impact him or them in a way that they should have a twang of regret after seeing the awe-inspiring image of Moshe Rabbeinu coming with the sages. It didn't work, and unfortunately they ended up where they ended up. But we see from here Moshe's great devotion to the Jewish people, that even after everything seemed lost, and it didn't look like he could save any of them, he put in a last-ditch effort. He snuck in a way to try to avert the decree. And this is something that we see Moshe Rabbeinu was doing throughout his life. Like when Hashem wanted to destroy the Jews by the golden calf, he put his neck on the line. He said, no, erase my name from your book, meaning to say, take me rather than them. Take me away rather than them. And then again at the spies, Hashem wanted to destroy the Jewish people. He said, no. And he got it to be delayed. At least they should die slowly over 40 years. And here in this week's parsha, Hashem wanted to destroy them. And he said, no, can't kill all of them for the sin of one man, and so on and so forth. His whole tenure as a leader of the Jewish people was marked by his constant defense of the Jewish people, and especially and even for his enemies, like we see here. So this is a big lesson for us. First of all, we are in the time approaching the 3rd of Tammuz and the 12th and 13th of Tammuz. The 3rd of Tammuz is the day that the Rebbe passed from this world, even though he's very much alive with us spiritually, and we feel his presence very strongly. But nevertheless, we celebrate his life on the 3rd of Tammuz and take his lessons. That's coming up this Sunday. But that was also the day that the previous Rebbe was told that he was free from imprisonment and he was sent instead to exile in Kazakhstan in Alma-Ata. No, Alma-Ata is his father, is Mechutin, sorry, Levi Yitzchok. This is Kostroma, sorry, Kostroma. And then on the 12th of Tammuz, 9 days later, is when he was told that he was going to be freed from that exile as well, and he actually left it on the 13th of Tammuz. Now, the previous Rebbe also was this sort of leader who went out to help and assist all Jewish people, even those that looked like they were beyond hope. Like here, Dasan and Aviram, the decree was signed and sealed, yet Moshe Rabbeinu put in an effort, a last-ditch effort, to get them somehow to change their ways. And the previous Rebbe also was a leader who did not give up on any Jew. No matter how far they seemed, how distant they seemed from Judaism, always put in the effort and sent shluchim and paid attention to the Jews who were not yet religious, who you would think they didn't belong in a not Jewish, in a Hasidic court, in such a religious environment with such a holy tzaddik. He gave his time for them and worked with them and so on and so forth and never gave up on them. And this is a hallmark of his leadership, which is, of course, something that his son-in-law and successor continued in terms of his outreach effort to the Jewish community. And he explained that this effort has to be done even more so from what Moshe Rabbeinu did. Moshe Rabbeinu did it for these arch enemies of his who were actually wicked people, who actually should have known better, and yet they were the biggest troublemakers. Nowadays, the Jews who are not religious are not bad people. They simply never learned differently. They were brought up in such environments. They were never taught Torah, or even if they were taught it, they were usually taught it in the wrong way. Never taught the sanctity of Torah, never taught the preciousness of a mitzvah, never really experienced a Shabbos the way it's supposed to be experienced, a proper davening, a proper Torah study session, and so on and so forth. So therefore, they're not to be blamed. And how much more so we should put in an effort to bring them close. If Moshe Rabbeinu could put in that effort to actually wicked people who actually deserved to die and be swallowed up in the earth and were minutes away from that, yet Moshe Rabbeinu found a way to somehow try to bring them back, how much more so we should look around us and find a way to inspire those that were not fortunate enough or are not fortunate enough to have the learning and the inspiration that we have. We should try to find a way to share it with them. So I hope all the 4 questions are answered. It didn't take us a whole Seder night to answer them, but I hope they're answered.
But the way it worked out also, you have to, what's the largest gematria in the entire Torah?
I don't know. You tell me.
When Dustin and Aviram answered Moshe, and they said, Tistarer gam tistarer.
Oh, okay.
That's it. Suf, resh, whatever it is, it's the biggest.
Oh, okay.
That little word is the biggest gematria.
Ki sistarer aleinu gam histarer. Sistarer.
That he was so full of himself that he's not changing.
Yes, I hear it.
I thought you were going to tell us the one about the smiles. There's a mile between the first and last letter. So, Rabbi, you got 2 minutes. You want to give us the the takeaway, or you gave us the takeaway? You want to just tell us real fast the question and the answer for each one? You got like 30 seconds for each one.
30 seconds for each one. Okay, so we started off asking, why does Rashi say that he went to thinking that they would show him respect when the pasuk doesn't say anything about that? It just says that he went, and apparently he was supposed to go to warn them to go away. And the answer is, the pasuk that teaches us this about is not about the going there, because going there is what he had to do, but the fact that it says that he got up. That's the significant word in the pasuk that clues Rashi in to know that something else was going on here. Why does it say he thought they would show him respect instead of he thought that they would do tshuva? Is because he didn't do anything specifically to make them do tshuva. He didn't really do anything different except that he walked in a certain way. He tried to give off an aura of holiness. I mean, a tzaddik gives it off whether he tries or not. But the way he walked, he tried to do it in a way that would bring them to show him the respect, which is why this is also the answer to the fourth question, which is why he made sure the sages went along with him. So it should be a whole, like a whole
Entourage.
entourage of holiness.
Entourage.
And that's why it talks about the respect, because that's what he was trying to do specifically. And that's why Rashi doesn't bring down the words that he went to Dasan and Aviram, because that's what he was supposed to do. And that's not really anything that needs explanation. He just explains the words Vayakam Moshe, Moshe got up. And yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
And
I
the
thank
third
you all
and
for
fourth.
listening.
And the third and
I'll
fourth.
accept congratulations from my first grandchild that was born on Shabbos.
Oh,
My son Freddie had a
Mazel
baby. Her
Mazel
name
tov,
is
Zaidi.
Rosa.
Very
She
nice.
weighs 6 pounds and 13
Mazel
ounces.
tov.
Mazel tov.
And Baruch Hashem.
My
You have a
grand-
Shabbos bris?
No, she's a girl.
Oh,
My granddaughter's name is Talia Rose. Middle
Nice.
name is Rose. Very nice. Mazel tov, Zaidi.
Thank you. Baruch Hashem.
enjoy the nachas. You worked hard.
Thank you. All the best. Have a good Shabbos, everybody.
Amen.
Kol
Thank you,
tov.
Rabbi.
Thank you, you too.
Oh, that was the familiar voice.